She came in medicated, had been for years, not because something was wrong with her, because everything she could do and feel and sense was so loud that medication was the only volume control that she had. Near the end of her session, I asked to speak with her higher self. Something else came through instead. I asked who it was. I am her protector. I am always in front of her. The air in the room got heavy, and I found myself wondering if I even had permission to keep asking any questions. What if the hardest parts of your life aren't punishment? What if they're preparation for something specific, something only you can do? 3 sessions, 3 women, one thread running underneath all of them. Elena came in medicated, and she'd been that way for a long time. Not because something was broken, because what she could feel and sense and do was so overwhelming that the medication was the only way she knew how to function in a world that wasn't built for someone like her. Her session took her to another lifetime, a woman, a time and a place where her abilities weren't curiosity, they were a threat. She had the ability to make herself physically smaller, not metaphorically, physically. She'd been doing it so long in that lifetime, it was just reflex. Make yourself smaller, make yourself less and quieter, give people less to be afraid of. A man came to her in secret one night. His wife was in labor. Something was wrong. He led her through the back door of his house. His wife was already afraid of her before she crossed the threshold, angry that he'd brought her there at all. The baby was coming feet first, cord wrapped around his waist. Elena untangled it, guided the delivery, cut the cord, wrapped the mother, and left fast, because being seen was dangerous. Because in that world, what she could do and what people did to people like her were connected. Later in the same lifetime, different day, different scene. She was alone in a forest, giving birth to her own child, pushing against a tree with no one around her. When the baby arrived, animals came from every direction. They gathered in a circle and went still. A deer moved through them, stepped forward, and licked the baby's head. She already knew his light would be brighter than hers. She was expecting it. The last scene of that lifetime, she was in a garden. An old man came up behind her. He'd known what she was for years, and that knowledge had curdled into something he couldn't leave alone. She died from a knife wound to the back of her neck. When I called on her higher self, it wasn't her higher self that answered. It was the man from the forest, the one whose wife she had helped that night. He told me that he had chosen to follow her across every lifetime. He didn't ask, he just decided, and he'd been there ever since. I asked about something she'd mentioned before the session started, a strange smell she could never quite explain. Cigarette smoke, always in her car when she was driving alone. No source, just the smell. He said there was someone behind her too, a big man. He smokes a lot. 2 protectors, one in front, one behind, and she'd spent this entire lifetime convinced she was alone, and she wasn't, not a single day of it. Then I asked about her knee pain. She'd carried it for years. He said it was intentional. She would run away from people if it didn't hurt. The pain is what keeps her still long enough to do what she came here to do. Then he said something. She's told you she's afraid of herself. She's not. She's never been afraid of herself. She pretends to be so the people around her won't be. She built an entire identity around being the frightened one, the one who needed to stay hidden, the one who made herself smaller so others would feel safe. And none of it was real. In lifetimes where people had killed her for what she was, she hadn't been afraid. She'd been protecting them from their own fear. She still was. If the world fears what you carry, does that mean that you stop carrying it? The next session answers that question directly. And the answer is going to land differently than you might expect. Lisa came in feeling unseen, and she'd been giving to her family, to people she'd met, to strangers who needed something that she had. And most of them had taken it without looking back. She was left wondering if any of it had mattered at all. Her session took her to a 19th century city, steam rising through the grates in the street, tall brick buildings pressing in from both sides. She was a small boy, alone, looking up at everything, invisible in the crowd. At some point, he left on a train with no destination and no plan, just a hat and a bag and a smile, because anywhere was better than staying still. He had become an inventor, something with wings, early flight, hot air balloons first, then something further along, something that would change how people moved through the world. He had a partner, someone he felt deeply connected to across more than just one lifetime. And he built a life from virtually nothing, a family, a home, work that felt like it was charging him every time he touched it. Then someone took it. Not a stranger, someone he knew. They put their name on what he'd built, and he spent years trying to reclaim credit for what was already out there, already working, already carrying people through the air. Then he stopped trying. People were using it. The name attached to it didn't change what it had done. He died in his 60s, family around him, at peace. The lesson the higher self handed back was simple. The work and the recognition were never about him. You're contributing. It doesn't matter if you're known. It doesn't matter if you don't see the results. Keep doing what you're doing. Then I asked about the experiences that she'd actually come in to talk about. She had memories she couldn't explain, e.t. contact, seeing things before they ever happened, years of questions she'd carried and never been able to answer. I thought this was where the session was going to open up. Her higher self confirmed it all happened, then moved on in 2 sentences. It was their agenda, not yours. It's in the past, it doesn't matter. Then it said what it had been waiting to say the whole time. She is pure love. She gives it everywhere, through her art, her jewelry, the people that she passes by. Many of them have taken it from her because they did need it. Some of them are waking up right now because of something she said or gave or was years ago in a moment that she doesn't even remember. Most of them will never tell her. Some won't understand what happened to them until much later, but they'll remember her, even when they can't explain why. I came into that section of the session looking for the alien story. The higher self had no interest in the alien story. It kept redirecting me back to the only story it knew was worth telling. Not what had been done to her, but what she was built to do. That's the pattern. Elena hides to protect. Lisa gives without needing to be known. The third session breaks both of those open. Leah's session opened in a jungle. She was barefoot, moving through dense trees toward a waterfall. And at the bottom of the pool, she found a baby sea turtle lost. She picked it up and carried it back through the trees to the ocean, set it in the waves, and watched it go. No audience, no acknowledgement, just the thing that needed doing. So she did it. Later in the same lifetime, her son wanted to explore on his own. She stood at the edge of the trees and didn't follow. He went into a part of the island that was forbidden. A boar attacked him, a tusk through his stomach. He died instantly. She found him and she carried that regret through the rest of the lifetime. The weight of the moment she chose to let him go. The higher self told her later in the session that he would have died anyway, not as a consolation, as fact. That lesson, learning to trust what you love enough to let it find its own way, was written into the lifetime before she arrived in it. The moment she stepped back from the tree line wasn't the cause, it was the classroom. Then the scene changed completely. She was energy, not a body, energy, floating through a modern city, moving between cars and traffic, and everything slowed down as she passed through it. Not because she did anything, just because she was there. She described it as walking through moving traffic without touching the ground. Then she was summoned, pulled across an ocean to a desert to the top of a sand dune where a gathering of older men was waiting below her. Leaders of communities and nations that had been at war with each other. They had called her there, not for strategy, not for mediation. They called her because of what she was. She said, I bridge the gap between communication. Not through anything she built or argued or negotiated, through what she was. She told me that this was her first time doing this kind of work. She felt like an apprentice, still in training. Her higher self was direct about what that meant. She is an energy of vibration, present tense, not past. The energy of peace. In that lifetime when people anywhere on earth prayed for peace, she was pulled to wherever the need was and where it was the loudest. It was her first experience on this planet, learning what it costs to be peace in a world that wasn't. Before the session, Leah had mentioned an obsession she couldn't account for. Guan Yin, revered across cultures as the embodiment of compassion and peace. After the session, there was nothing left to account for. She is that energy, carrying it in a different form, in a different century, still learning its edges. Then she asked about her 5-year-old son. He'd been physically aggressive toward her. She wanted to know what was wrong with him, how to fix it, whether he was doing something that caused it. She was genuinely frightened that she was failing him. The higher self didn't soften it. Nothing is wrong with him. He came to teach her to hold a boundary strong enough for what's coming. That boundary, the one she was struggling to build against a 5-year-old, was practice. The scale of what she'd eventually need it for was never described. The higher self left that open and I didn't push. She came in convinced she was failing as a mother. She left with the understanding that her son wasn't a problem to solve. He was a training ground for something most people can't even picture. 3 different sessions, 3 different women, 3 completely different stories. Elena was feared, Lisa was taken from, and Leah was tested by the person she loved most and protected hardest. The world looked at each of them and decided something was off. Too much, too strange, too difficult to be around without feeling like something about you was being exposed. None of it was punishment. All of it had a direction. The souls that get sent into the hardest rooms aren't the ones who couldn't manage easier lives. They're the ones trusted not to disappear in the dark, not to harden into something unrecognizable, not to drop what they're carrying just because the room keeps telling them to do so. You don't end up somewhere difficult because you owe a debt. You end up there because that specific place needs exactly what you are. And the calculation made before you even arrived here was that you wouldn't lose it no matter what the room cost you. A protector, a light bearer, a peacebringer. If one of these landed somewhere in you while you were watching and listening, drop the name in the comments below. Just the name, nothing else required. Because a lot of people watching this have gone their whole lives without a word for what they are, and having one, even a simple one, changes how you carry it. One question to take with you. What if the thing about you that confuses people the most isn't a flaw, isn't a failure, isn't evidence that something went wrong when they were building you? What if it's the exact reason you're here, not despite the confusion it causes, but because of it? The work Elena, Lisa, and Leah did in these sessions didn't explain their past. It changed what they did next. If something in this episode landed for you, if you recognized yourself in one of these women or in the pattern underneath all three, the link to learn more about expanded consciousness hypnosis is below. That's where we find out what your own higher self has been waiting to say all along. When you're ready to know, I'd be honored to sit with you. New episodes every week. I'll see you in the next room.